We're on?
We're live.
All right, we're on. What's going on, Yehuda? It's good to be back here with you again.
It is. It really is. It's been a little bit of time, and I really enjoyed our first podcast. That was a lot of fun.
That was a blast. I had so much fun, and I even enjoyed watching it afterwards. I was like, hey, not bad. Some interesting content.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well.
So I was thinking today maybe we could talk about the phenomenon that is Breslov and Uman in the world. You know, it's something that's just growing and growing, and so many people are involved. And I think where's that line? Ein bias asher ein sham mace.
Breslov is a wildfire. It's true. Not just Breslov. I think Bechlal, like neo chassidus, and there's like a definitely a reawakening of passion, but Breslov in a huge way. I mean, listen, when we grew up, we had we had the Landismans down the street. That was like my only knowledge of Breslov. Do we know anybody else who was Breslov?
Nope, that's who we knew was Breslov. But like, probably for you was the same as me, that they were just people. These guys were Belzers. These guys were Breslovers. We didn't know the difference.
Right, except that there was one. I think my total knowledge of Breslov came down to the joke that Chabad calls. Maybe that Chabad and Breslov, they both call the Rebbe up for an Aliyah, but what would happen if they tried to call him for Hagla? Something like that. Like that was like basically the limit. That like I knew like Chabad, they kind of believed that the Rebbe didn't die, and Breslov kind of had a dead Rebbe, and they were fine with that. That was it.
But in my head, I associate that joke with Rabbi Ronnie Greenwald.
That's so funny. I don't know why you associate. Maybe you heard of him?
Maybe. I remember sitting in Schweitzer's and just, he was always making jokes about something or another. And I just remember him going, give him Hagba.
Right.
You think that's a big deal? Give him Hagba.
And I didn't really even get the joke because I didn't really understand anything about it, and that was a limit of it. But I always liked the Landismans. We also, I think you learned there at night sometimes, and I learned there before my bar mitzvah or after my mitzvah.
Right, but also we didn't get an impression that Breslov was weird because Rabbi Landisman is a serious guy. He ran one of the top Bezdin Lahira, and he was together with Rabbi Malinowitz Zal.
Right.
They were together. They worked together, and they were like the hardest gittin would come to them. So they were like, it wasn't some weird offshoot of like funny people who dance on cars. It was like a serious Talmud Chacham, and he was Breslov, and we didn't know what that meant.
No, not at all. Not at all. So when did Breslov? The truth is that Breslov really started opening up to me from you. You definitely brought that whole pathway in. I think into the family.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't you? Where did it
come
from?
It was Akiva.
Right, Akiva.
Akiva Weinstein, now known as Rabbi Akiva Weinstein. Raice Brothers and the Kuda Taiva.
That's right.
He was the first in our family, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But even after he got into Breslov, I still had no clue what Breslov was. Especially at the beginning, he would say Tyra's over and stuff and this and that, and I didn't really know what he was talking about.
He'd say Tyra's over from like Likutei Moharan.
No, sometimes he would quote Rabbi Nachman, and sometimes, but I didn't really know what he was talking about. I think for me, it was the music,
right,
more than anything else. I came to Israel in '99. And that was, the music scene in Israel was taking off like crazy. Maybe it took off before me, but I remember at that time, Chaim David was huge.
Yes.
Chaim David wasn't a Breslover. I mean, he's a friend of Breslov, but he's not a Breslover. Okay. And I don't think any of his music was Breslov, but there were all these other chevra that just were getting big. Number one, Yosef Karduner.
Wait, well, Chaim David is like the Talmud of Reb Shlomo, and that's really what it was like. A lot the Karlbach Breslov scene crossover. That was the music scene, right? All these guys were all Karlbach Breslov influenced. Right. Some more to the Karlbach side, some more to the Breslov side. But that was like the music. Right. I mean, that's just at least the music that I remember. That you would send a lot of stuff to me, and when I also started getting into it, I was really young then. Started getting into all this music.
Right. So I think number one is Yosef Karduner, because almost all of his songs were just straight lyrics from Likutei Moharan.
It's not even really music. It's just like chanting
Likutei Moharan. But it was the best. You listened, the music was so mellow.
Right.
And then he's saying this really good stuff and really easy to understand Hebrew. I wasn't, I was just new to Israel, but I understood everything he said because it was said so clearly and simply, and it was intriguing. Like, what is this guy saying? It's beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Smach, al tir'eh et hara, tir'eh tov, just focus on the good. Oh, very good energy music.
Right.
Look at the good, find the nekuda tova, be mechazek. So all of this stuff. Right? We were just singing earlier. I walked into the house and we started singing. אם אתה מאמין שיכולים לקלקל, תאמין שיכולים לתקן.
Yeah, it's true. I'll tell you, a lot of the music for me also, like, I began to get into it also. We were kind of looking for an alternative to like that standard, music. I guess it was like, Mordechai and David and Avram Fried, and then then you went like that's like all the other dudes, and it was like not really music that I enjoyed especially. And then there was like Moshav and Lansbaum, and then these guys all opened a whole new genre of music, which actually has birthed so much music these days, and it was all coming from Reb Shlomo, like all these Reb Shlomo Talmidim, and the music was just mellow and chilled and interesting. Even Yehuda Glantz, right? He used to sing. He would sing like even lyrics straight from Reb Shlomo, or from Rabbi Nachman, Aaron Razel, and Sinai Tor.
Sinai Tor was a huge one. Adi Ran. Sinai Tor and
Adi Ran. Yeah, we pounded those early CDs of Adi Ran.
Also going to the shows, which was a whole experience. I remember going to a Sinai Tor and Adi Ran show in Heichal Shlomo, right next to the Great Synagogue on King George. And I don't remember which one was first, but I think Adi Ran was first. And Adi Ran is all straight Breslov music, like the best stuff. And then I remember going, I went to use the men's room and I'm washing my hands, and then I look up in the mirror and there's these bright blue eyes looking at me out of this, wrapped in the whole white head wrap and the red payas coming out, and it was Sinai. I thought he's like, hey. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, he's an intense guy. He has like an intense energy.
They shut all the lights off in the hall, just candles on the stage, and it was another world. And again, he's just singing, like, what was a song off his first album, which was just the whole Torah from Likutei Moharan. The Torah about, come on, you know it. Remind me. It's when there's a chisaron in the Shechina, then Hashem is telling you what his chisaron is.
Right.
The most beautiful Torah in Likutei Moharan, which, by the way, I've learned that Torah for years and years, and it's finally opening up a little bit to me. It's like so many layers. Let's not try to sing that though.
I'm not going to try.
People will just shut off as soon as we start singing that song.
No, that was bad. Lesson 89 in Likutei Moharan. Yeah, that's an amazing piece. Ayin Sham. Oh wow, it's a powerful piece. Yeah, and it's true. A lot of the funny thing is that I did not understand the words. Like when I started out, I did not understand it. I was too young to even follow the Hebrew. I just enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the fact that it was like a Jewish music that was not anything that I had heard of before. Gabriel Chasson, I love those albums. Like he just, that guitar, like at that age, it was like so good. It was so good.
Right, because we didn't want to listen to Jewish music back then. We wanted to listen to good music.
Right. And there really wasn't a lot of good Jewish music that we offered. And, but at least from my taste. But I really got into that. Like I got into a lot of that music that you sent back. And the first shows that we went to, also Moshav, Soul Farm, who's Yehuda Leichter?
Acharit Hayamim Festival.
They were great. They was like such a live energy. Just I danced for hours.
So I'll tell you a story. My first time I heard about, my first time really encountering like real Breslovers at a music gig. I went with some friends one summer. I think it was the summer of 2000. And there was some festival up in some yeshuva middle of the country, like near Hadera or something. And we hitchhiked there, and it was really beautiful. Like, there was a whole farm, and animals, and they set up outdoors at night. And there was a whole bunch of guys that played there. Aaron Razel, Adi Ran, Hamadri Goat. I don't know if everyone remembers Hamadri Goat.
Yeah.
They weren't really Breslov, but they were great stuff. And Yisrael Dagan. Yisrael Dagan.
He's classic Breslov. He's straight Breslov.
He's a hardcore nanach. Like he's like an original nanach. And a lot of his tapes, his albums are like pumping music. But what I discovered there, he was the last one to play that night. It was like, I don't know, 1:30 in the morning, lying on the grass after a long night of music. And he comes up. I didn't know who he was. I knew some Breslover guy named Yisrael Dagan. He comes out there with his nylon string guitar and he's just playing and telling stories and music. And it was unreal. It was such an experience. And then when I left, we had no idea how we were getting out. We're a bunch of kids. I was like, 17 or something. Right. And so we had to get a ride out of there. So there was nobody left. Everyone left and we're just stuck there. So there was this Breslov van, a couple of Breslovers, like they had stuff written on the van. And we're like, where you going? Oh, we're going to Bnei Brak. We get a ride to Bnei Brak. Bnei Brak can get all night back to Yerushalayim. So these guys didn't even talk to us. They're like, yeah, get in the car. Like, didn't even talk to us. And then as we get in the car, the guy turns around to us and he goes, hey, Tempe Uman. I'm like, no. Tiskel Agil Uman. And that was it. I'm like, I don't even know what Uman is at this point.
Wait, who else was in the car with you? I'm curious who got this bracha.
It was me and my friend Rafi Miller. I don't think anyone else was there. I remember just the two of us. Maybe
and did you make it to Uman?
I don't think he ever made it to Uman.
Yet.
Right, not yet.
Wow.
So that was a cool experience.
And the whole travel, they didn't even like try to do hafatza.
No, they didn't. They didn't try to do anything to us. Like the only thing they said to us was like, "Hey, Uman, Tiskel Agil Uman." It was a little weird, but the whole night we spent with tons of really beautiful chavra, and you meet these guys and they have such good energy, and they're talking Emunah and they're talking Torah and they're talking real stuff, So it's like it affects you so strongly. Who are these guys? Why? What is this happy brand? Israelis, the whole place.
There's a difference between the Israeli nanachs early on and the American nanachs. Very different, in a lot of different waves.
True. Like the guys who did the whole Yuta Uman, they were a little bit intense. Right. Those guys were like, when they said it to me, I was like, I don't think I want to go to Uman. I don't know. These guys seem a little bit much for me.
Cultish.
But yeah, but I dug the whole scene though. It was beautiful. The music was great, and the stories were fantastic, and the energy, more than anything, was this energy of like this happy, yearning, machazik brand of Yiddishkeit. Right. I was like, this is really interesting. I could get into this. And especially, I was in yeshiva, and I loved learning. I loved being in yeshiva. I loved learning Torah. But it felt like every Zman, I would start out, okay, this is gonna be awesome. And I would rock it at the beginning of the Zman, and I would hit some kind of speed bump. I would hit some kind of bump on the road, and it would derail my Zman at a certain point. And it was really hard to get back up after getting knocked down. And that would happen all the time. And I'd be like, all right, next Zman. And I like to party. I like to have fun back then. So it was like, okay, the Zman starts, the new Zman, let's do it. And then it was getting knocked down and get off your game. And it wasn't until I started listening to the words and listening to, it's all right. You could get knocked. Right. It's so simple. Like there's nothing complicated. A lot of the initial teachings I was exposed to, it wasn't bechenes. It wasn't these deep Taras and Likutim Aran that are super complicated and you could spend years learning.
Right.
It was just the very simple things. You can get knocked down and get back up. It's okay to make a mistake. The main thing is to get up again. It's chazgus, and that's what got me first. It was like, okay, I can mess up, and that's okay. I can get up again. And that was the first thing that dragged me in, that good energy and that feeling of chizuk, of you can do this. We were all in this together, and we can be mechazik each other.
Wow. So it's cool. It's cool because I got this like as the reverberations from you, because you were sending back to America, even though I'm a couple of years younger than you, and you sent all the stuff back, all the music you sent back to America, and I'm listening to it and enjoying it and playing it in the house a lot. C-Night Tour was like my go-to. I listened like every day. I'd wake up in the morning, he had a song, like Boker Tov. And then, he's like, making like sounds of a chicken. That was like I had a sound system, and that was my alarm every morning. I had like it would automatically start playing the CD with that song. And, just I would sit and like, meditate like the Rashi Kivar. I didn't really know what meditation was, even though I actually, at this time also, I definitely started reading Rabbi Ari Kaplan as well. And then we started learning a little bit of Sfas Emes. We didn't learn Breslov. It was like we began to learn a little Sfas Emes at some different points. And obviously I was like looking up to you and all my big brothers, like looking up to you guys as like, you know, epic mountains. But slowly you began to like share so much of this. And then I also came to Israel, began to, you know, connect a lot to this, a lot to Breslov, a lot to this journey, a lot to the tzaddikim. But it's not just Breslov. That's why I kind of like, I want to hear more also. Like in this whole journey that you came to Israel, there's a lot of like connecting to Reb Shimon and connecting to the Maras Machpelah and Cave Rachel, and like being in Eretz Yisrael is a whole nother experience for me. And it really connected to this whole world of chassidus, which I guess I can kind of say is like a living, alive Yiddishkeit for me. Even though we grew up very alive in Yiddishkeit, but suddenly when it became like this living, breathing experience, it took on a whole new meaning for me. And I think definitely a lot of Breslov meant for me. It was like, to me, I think jumping ahead, like to me, Breslov became this like a living God. Like I mamish felt like, whoa, Hashem's mamish alive. He's mamish in my life. He's mamish like he's there in the ups and in the downs and in the rights and in the lefts and in the song and in the dance and in like the whole Yiddishkeit suddenly was like, whoa, it's all right here. It's right now. It's not just laws. It's not just a story. It's not just a book. It's life itself. You living Yiddishkeit was, you know, Lev Basar, Breslov, you know, like these original teachings were so invigorating and like such a breath of fresh air.
It's interesting that you bring up coming to Eretz Yisrael, because I think we had this conversation the other way. We should definitely talk about this again. That we did grow up with a very alive Yiddishkeit. You know, our house, Shabbos was, I feel that the reason why I had friends who went off the derech or wherever, did their thing, and you know, we had a lot of friends who were Machal Shabbos, different point, and I never consciously was Machal Shabbos because we grew up with a house that Shabbos was just the happiest, best time. Why would I ever want to be Machal Shabbos? Shabbos is amazing. But coming to Eretz Yisrael, not losing sight of that point, coming to Eretz Yisrael, you brought up now, totally opened up.
Yeah.
A living Yiddishkeit. I mean, how could it not? I mean, we came the first time. When was the first time we came to Eretz Yisrael? It was Pesach mid-90s, right? Right
Yeah.
after 95, maybe 94. Around then.
Dina got married in 94.
93.
Right? 93.
Right. So this is Pesach 95 because it's after Jelly was born. So Pesach 95. I was 12 years old. You were what? 8 years old.
Something like that. Yeah.
Around that. And we came to Eretz Yisrael, and I don't ever remember going to a kever of a tzaddik in America.
No.
In fact, as a kid, probably barely go to kvarim in general. You don't really go to.
No, they never took us. I think the first time that I ever like had a real thing to do with anybody was Uncle Jerry.
Yeah, and that was later on.
It was later on. It was a few years later.
Yeah, so we came to Eretz Yisrael, and suddenly we're going to all these kivrei tzaddikim, and all the stories that you hear come to life. You go to the Kotel, you go to the Old City, you go to Kever Rachel. We went to Kever Shmuel Hanavi and Shimon HaTzadik and Maras Machpelah, and suddenly it comes alive. It's like Yiddishkeit is not just a bunch of stories in a book. It's real. Wow, the Avos are buried here. They were real people, and they were buried underneath us.
That was definitely my moment. Like I told this to you, we spoke about this the other week, just privately. But that definitely was my coming moment. Like when we came to Eretz Yisrael, that trip, I don't remember all these experiences. Like I know that we went to Shimon HaTzadik, Shmuel Hanavi. I do not remember all of it. I have like a vague memory of Shmuel Hanavi from when we came that time. I've been there a number of times since. So like it kind of like put pictures together.
Right, you don't remember which memories are which.
Right, but I definitely remember being by Maras Machpelah. But I'll tell you, that trip, we came for Pesach. There were certain things that happened to me that trip, and that trip was my moment where I was just like, whoa, this is real. These stories are real. The whole experience of being in Eretz Yisrael, the Avos. Like, I remember we were walking through the Old City, and I was like, wow, this all really happened. I remember walking around learning, and I had just been learning Chumash up until that point. I'm young. But like hearing the stories, well, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, like these stories were real. These stories are alive. These stories really happened. it changed. That was a huge change. By Ma'aras HaMachpelah, that time was an intense moment. Also being there and being like, "Whoa, Avram is buried here," and we were there on the day that they had opened Yitzchak. Yitzchak is buried here, and I was like, "It's real." And then it also was really also very intense. Even though it wasn't like a bad time, but there was a rock throwing when we were there, and like the soldiers fired back rubber bullets, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like that only intensified the whole thing. I mean, we got like pushed inside, and I was like, "What's going on? They just fired rubber bullets!" Like, and it was like this. It was like, "Whoa!" And suddenly this whole experience of like, "Wow, they hate us. They, we're Jews, and it's a real story. And Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were real people, like I am." Not like just some story in a book, not just another awesome. And I always love fairy tales. That's gonna have to get into that one time, but because fairy tales, I find they're so like these old stories. They're like such deep stories, and learning Sefer Bereshis is this mixture of fairy tale and fantasy, but yet like formation of who Am Yisrael is and who I am and all that, and that definitely that Pesach was life-changing. Life-changing. And even though I'll tell you, I did go through my rough spots in my teenage years. We had, different experience there, but definitely I also felt that even though I had my rough spots, I definitely felt like growing up in the house was very powerful, but that experience, like all the different journeys and the different paths and the twists and turns that we take in life, but like, that moment, that experience, I remember coming back from Israel and just being like, whoa, like I saw it. And I think that was the time that I knew I needed to live in Eretz Yisrael. It was like such a different taste. The smells, the just the whole. It was like
it's alive. It's alive. It's real. It's not just. Me too. I don't remember when I decided I wanted to live in Eretz Yisrael. I just, as long as I can remember as a kid, I just knew I was going to live in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know when it started. Maybe it started then. I mean, how could I know before I even moved there? But before I've ever been. But I just always remember I'm going to live in Eretz Yisrael. I came back 2 years later for Sukkot when I was 14, and I stayed by Dina and Akiva. And then I came when I was 16 to Yeshiva, and I never really looked back. So yeah, that experience of going to the Kibbutz and coming alive. And then, but let's bring it back. I want to bring it back to we were talking about Breslov and how we got into Breslov in the early 2000s. So first we said it was the music. Yeah. There's when we talk about music, there's also a few other people I want to mention. One is a fellow by the name of Avram Abutbal, who he made beautiful music. He passed away. Alav Shalom. Yeah.
Did he make more than one album? The only album I knew was Beit HaKdusha.
I think he made more, but the only album I knew was Beit HaKdusha, and it was.
Yeah, I pulled it out recently. I was listening to it. That was my recent journey of going back to music I haven't listened to in a number of years. I pulled that out also.
Right, so that was one album I listened to a ton, and then I got to meet him because he actually lived in Beis Yisrael right near the Mir. And I don't remember when I met him, but we became friends, probably through my buddy Yoeli Klein.
And you told me he had a hot dog stand.
He had a hot dog stand. He used to come to Old Craft Stadium by Gone Soccer with the hot dog stand. And back then, somebody was importing Meal Mart hot dogs to America, like real American Meal Mart hot dogs. So he used to buy them and make them, and he had everything. He had coleslaw and fried onions, and he had it all, and the bun warmer. He had the whole thing.
He was like the cool shuck way before.
It was awesome. He used to come to the football games there, and Motzei Shabbos, and you'd eat hot dogs.
Was he an American?
Avram Abutbal?
Yeah.
No, Israeli. And then he used to also sell it outside the Mir. Right in front of the Mir, right across from the main base manager of the Mir, he had his little hot dog thing. I used to go sit with him. I don't remember when this was. This might have been a little bit later on, but around the same, early 2000s, I used to go sit with him and learn. I'd come out. At some point, I was hanging around the Mir. Maybe it was before I was learning there. Maybe I was already learning there. I don't remember. But
what did you learn with him?
I remember learning Sfas Emes with him. I don't think I ever learned any Breslov stuff with him. We schmoozed a lot of Breslov, and he would tell me tires, but it was before I got into Breslov, so I was still learning Sfas Emes. That was my first chassidus that I loved was Sfas Emes. Yeah. So that's what I learned with him. And he was such a very sweet guy, very easy smile. And he was a big influence on me because he also had that. He was very alive but very mellow. He had that Breslov chill thing going. Like, yeah, it's good. I would meet him, big hug, big smile, and that was it. He didn't have a lot of money. He was pretty poor. He was selling hot dogs outside the mirror. But Gewalt, what a happy, lichtige yid he was.
Wow.
So whoever his family is, Hashem should bless them.
Amen. Amen. Yeah.
So that was another fellow. So it was the music at first. And then a major influence for me was Yerli Klein, who now teaches Barabé Fisher's yeshiva.
Right.
And he got into Breslov, I don't remember how, but he got into it before me. And then somehow he got connected to Rav Koenig Zal from Tzfat, Rav Elazar Mordechai Koenig. How did that happen? His father, Yerli's dad, was always connected to tzaddikim. Like, he was very close with the Ribnitzer back in the day when the Ribnitzer lived in Monsey before he passed. He was very close. He was good friends with Mordechai and David, and they were very close to the Ribnitzer. So he was always close to different tzaddikim, and the Kasharov, I remember Yerli telling me his father was close to the Kasharov. I don't know who it is either. I'm sure it was the Kasharov. We'll have to ask Yerli.
Yeah.
And then somehow Rav Koenig was sick years ago. This is in 2004.
Yeah.
2003.
No, 2004, because it was right after my first year in Israel.
Okay. So what year?
Must be 2004, 05 was my first year in Israel.
Okay.
And that summer back in the States was the first year that he was there. He was in Yerli's house. That's what you're getting to.
Right. So at that point, I was already into chassidus, and I was already going to all the music shows and getting connected. And also, we have to mention Rabbi Ari Kaplan, because back in Medrash Shmuel, like, what really got me fired, really got me started, and like connecting to Panemius HaTorah was Rabbi Ari Kaplan. Me and my buddy Moshe Lachman, who's now a close talmid of Moshe Weinberger. So we used to cut out of Second Seder every day at 6 o'clock and go to the dorm and chill and then read Rabbi Ari Kaplan.
Yeah, it's true that Abba, we always had in the house Rabbi Ari Kaplan, and he also I think he was my first dead Rebbe. Since then there's been a few, but not many. But he was definitely he opened up meditation and all these interesting concepts, even the ones, like the book of if you were God. And these questions.
Right. Those are the books we used to read. If you were God, those ones.
Those were opened up Judaism, even though we spoke so much with Abba, and Abba would share so many Torahs and things. But this was the first time that there was a book that was starting to me and got me to really think about Hashem, not just hear other people tell me how I should think. He was very open, and his books were so stimulating. Right. I'd read them, and it was the first time I could read a book and then walk away from it and still be thinking about it 2 days later, 3 days later, that's so interesting.
Right. So Moshe and I used to open it up, we read a few lines, and then we would just talk about it because it was fascinating. And that got it started. And then we actually made a chabura. We started a whole clandestine chabura in Yeshiva. Yaakov Rekant, a bunch of other guys, and that was fun until we got shut down because we were doing it during Seder. We were supposed to be learning Gemara.
What were you learning? The Rabbi Kaplan?
Rabbi Kaplan, and then sometimes we'd do a little Sfas Emes. It was cool. That was
horrible people.
And people were getting fired up,
Right.
It's like, nope, shut that down. It's time to learn Gemara now. Let's do it during Musar Seder. I'm like, yeah, but nobody comes to Musar Seder.
Right. Musar Seder has a big blackout on it. Don't you know that?
No one wants to learn anything during Musar Seder. It's like Musar Seder was at 7 to 7:40 or something like that. After 3 hours of learning Gemara, who has a head left at that point?
Not fair.
No. So But we started something, and a lot of chaver from there are nowadays fired up, yet and connected.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So it's cool.
Wow, Rabbi Kaplan. It's amazing.
So that was that. So anyway, fast forward a few years later. I mean, the whole time I was getting into chassidus and other things. I remember, whatever it was, Maharal. I remember I bought a Maharal in the Sivas Eilam. I used to read that. Whatever it was, just open up and start learning. different things. And Rav Koenig, though, I had started getting into Breslov because of the music and because of Yerlin. I didn't really learn much Breslov inside because I remember trying to open a Likutei Moharan, and it was
closed book.
Yeah, I felt like I didn't understand a thing. It was gibberish to me.
Right. You don't even know what's the order of the sefer, like what's going on here.
Right, nothing. I mean, you open it from the beginning. You start from like the first tire, right? Like the intro is okay, about Rabbi Shimon, and then suddenly you open up this first tire and he starts saying, "This is bechinas this, bechinas that," and I have no idea what he's talking about. It makes no sense. I even remember I was in Sfat at some point, staying by. I don't remember who I was staying by, but he had the English Likutei Moharan. I was like, oh, an English Likutei Moharan. Maybe I could read that. I open it up and nothing. The notes, none of it made any sense to me. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. But Rav Koenig ended up, he was sick. He had a lung disease and he needed a lung transplant. So he went to America and he got on a waiting list. And I don't know who he was staying by, but he ended up by the Kleins because they have a private mikvah. And he couldn't go to a public mikvah because of his health situation, so he needed a nice, clean, private place. So he ended up coming to the Kleins, and Yerli's dad invited him to come in. They had they have a beautiful big house with a shul in the basement and a mikvah and plenty of room for the Rav to stay. So Rav Koenig ended up staying there. He moved in, and they became very, very close. And then when Yerli was going in Shidduchim, he went back to the States to go in Shidduchim for a little while. It was like a winter, and he spent the whole winter with Rav Koenig. And we were chavrusas then. We learned a lot together. It was good times, and I missed my chavrusa. So I went back Pesach time. Shani and I went for Pesach to actually a different friend of ours got married in the end of Adar, and we went back for Pesach, and Yerli got engaged. So I said, you know what? My chavrus is engaged. He's going to get married in a few months. I'm going to stay in Monsey till the wedding. We'll learn together. We'll spend time together. And then I used to spend every day I went and daven with Rav Koenig. And it was nice because in Tzfat, he had this huge kehila with tons of people. And if you wanted to talk to him, you had to make an appointment. You can get a few minutes of his time. He's a very busy guy. In Monsey, people would come in and visit from the Kehila, but it was just a few people there, and you were able to sit and schmooze with him.
Yeah.
Every day after davening, we would sit down and learn Likutei Halachos. Were you around then? Were you in Monsey then?
So I came back for that Pesach, and then I went, and then I came back to Israel after Pesach. And that summer, when I came back, I was in my first connection to a live tzaddik. Like I said, like my first introduction to like a dead Rebbe was Rabbi Kaplan, like through his books. He didn't get yet like the dead tzaddik like Kaver. That's also a next level introduction. Actually was. I mean, I guess, I don't know, Hebron, whatever. But my connection with Rav Koenig, that started that summer.
You had a crazy story with Rav Koenig. Now I'm remembering now. You had a wild story with him.
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
So basically, that summer I'd come back and I finished my first year in Ner Yaakov, Ner Jake. And I'm like, it was a good year. I had grown a lot. Still not sure kind of where I'm fitting in and what my story is. I was not in I didn't have any like flip out experience in Israel. I'd come back after that year, and I was back. I was working for Bensi as a plumber, doing plumbing around Monsey. And they started, and also I had gotten to know Yoeli pretty well through you over the last number of years. I've been friends with him for a bunch of years. And also begin to explore some of this Breslov stuff, opening up to like different things. We have definitely had a lot of conversations. I was not reading any like svarim like that. It was more just exploring. Even the learning that I was doing was like in there, Jake, was a lot of reading a lot of English books. I think I had just been introduced to a World Mask, Rakiva Tats, listen to some of his shiurim, a lot of English books, a lot of like, just about understanding, what is Judaism, all that. Anyhow, I'm back in America that summer, and because I know a little bit about this, we're like, okay, let's do Hisbodedus. What's Hisbodedus? Some type of meditation. I don't know. I was into that. I think the real interest in meditation started with like, what do you call it? Transcendental meditation, which I was like really into. I was like, cool, I could stare at a flame and meditate on Aleph Bays. Like I was doing that. I had some really amazing experiences. If you remember, even earlier that year, I had a crazy experience which you actually took me to Rabbi Citron when you were learning in the old city. And it was a whole experience where, seeing like this crazy experience of oneness, and then it would break apart and have to fight back to get there. It was like this insane, like psychedelic experience.
I'll have to hear. I don't remember this.
So yeah, I'll have to get more that another time. But anyhow, I was like, cool, okay, Hesbodedus, we'll talk to Hashem, but we needed some guidance. So Rav Koenig said, listen, let's make a Hesbodedus Chabura in Muncie, and we'll meet once a week with Rav Koenig. I was like, cool. I'm still, more of like a punk.
Yoeli suggested it.
I think Yoeli, whatever. That was no.
Okay.
I think the Rav Koenig said, like, I'd be the one to, he'd be involved. Right, because really it was you and it was Yoeli. It was really Yoeli, and then a few other guys that were there. So I kind of like was like, yo, come along. So I came there, I think by the first meeting with Rav Koenig or whatever it was, first, second meeting. And he's talking about, the Mila of Hesbodedus and just simple advice. And then he looks up at me and he goes, and who are you? And I was just like, oh, Yehuda Raice, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in Israel, I'm a plumber. Like, he started asking a whole bunch of questions, and it was really strange. Like, it was all in Hebrew, but like, I didn't really know what was going on. Like, why are you curious about me? But it felt really good, obviously, that he's curious about me. And then he like goes back to continue to talk. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is, I really shouldn't be here. Like, this is not for me. Like, I'm not in the same place that anybody else is over here. Like, this is, it's too much. Further down the road. And then he goes, and if you think, and his sweet, really sweet, like, lilting voice. And if you think that maybe Hesbodedus is not for you, and maybe it's only for somebody who's further down the road, like, I give him a look. I'm like, that's weird. Like, because I was just thinking that. And he explains why it's okay. And then I'm like, yeah, but like in my head, I'm like, yeah, but it's not for me, even though maybe it's for most people. And he goes, and if you think that maybe it's not for you, because literally the thoughts that I was having, and I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, this is nuts. And it happened like 3 or 4 times. And at the end of the thing, I was like, white. And you look at me like, Yehuda, what happened? I'm like, dude, the craziest thing to have. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, didn't you see he asked me, and then he was reading my mind, and I don't know what was going on. And you're like, no, I don't think he was talking about. Exactly. That's what you looked at. But it was at that moment, I was like, whoa. Like, it was the first time that I had somebody. The truth is, I have to say, it wasn't my first experience with a tzaddik. I think my first experience with a live tzaddik was when I was in pre-1A. And we finished our like the end of pre-1A, the siddur party or something. And I got up to Hillel from Mordechai Schwab with a bracha. I remember walking up, and he gave it to each kid, and he gave me a bracha, and that was very profound. Like, I remember feeling that he died when I must have been in second grade or something, like really young, and it was a year or two after that, and that definitely had a huge imprint. But this was the first time that I was older, and here I am meeting like a tzaddik. I don't know like what he is really like. It wasn't like I didn't have because I didn't meet him in Tzfat, even though I've been to Tzfat and I'd seen him there, but like, well, obviously there was no connection. Here it was like we're in a little room, couple guys, but suddenly I had this like profound experience. And then when we went to Uman, which we'll get into, I think that was that Rosh Hashanah was the first time that we ever went to Uman. I had been working and we went with a bunch of people. It was Akiva's second year, and we flew together. It was you, Akiva. I don't remember who else was with us, but we all went together. And that whole trip, we sorry about that. That whole trip, he kept on seeing us. He kept on waving to us, and I was like, I felt like $1,000,000, even though he probably was waving at you just as much as he was waving at me. But to me, it felt like he was waving at me, and he was just like, and every time we'd show up in the airport, he'd be like, he had that like sweet, like almost like slow motion energy to him.
Right.
All
the
same
time. Mellow Breslov energy.
Yes. Super mellow all the time. Nothing's ever overwhelming him. Even I remember, even there were crazy stories with his surgery and going out. He went Friday night in the middle of the night, like Yoeli told over a story about how like mellow. Anytime I ever met
Yoeli on here to tell us stories about Rav Koenig. That's what we should do.
Yeah, but he was always mellow. Always mellow. It's good. And even his voice was always like, it's okay. It was like a calming salve of like, the Rebbe says, Einiush, like, in his beautiful voice, like, Benu Amar, Haikar, Ha'emunah. Right. They had that smile. Always a smile, always sweet, always like good. It's not intense. It's not like breaking you. Nothing's gonna break. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it to the end. We're all in this together. In gedolim in ketanim, rachaverim. Like very much, we're gonna, we're all together. We're all coming to the Rebbe. We're coming as one. Like that energy was such an incredible experience that I had never felt before. Like that type of thing. It was always, it's crazy. So yeah, so that summer was a special summer, and you had been there since Pesach, and yeah, I guess that was definitely like in a way my introduction, my
Yeah, so that was the coolest. That was the best time because it was the coolest experience. So being with Rav Koenig in that environment, in that small environment, we used to learn the Likutei Halachos with him every day after davening. So at the beginning he agreed. You really asked him would he teach us. So he agreed, like, oh, I'll teach us Likutei Moran. At first it was like once a week, twice a week. And then every day after davening, he would sit down. Whoever wants could come and sit and learn the Likutei Halachos. So when you had a Rebbe teaching you, suddenly things started to make more sense. Even though Rav Koenig, he didn't explain so much. He wasn't. Right. He would kind of read it, but the way he read it made sense.
Right, and it was very fresh every time.
What do you mean by that?
When he would read it, it wasn't. He would read it like the Rebbe says. I wasn't with him much, but the times I remember he would just learn it like very simply, not like like sometimes when people teach, they go, okay, the Rebbe's about to explain and right. this and this and this and then we're going to explore and like they're kind of like preparing you because it's like so much that's about to happen. He wouldn't. He would just kind of jump in. He goes, Beinu Amar, and just like start and like the Rebbe says, and
right, he would just read it.
Right, just read it.
He didn't even explain too much of it. Just read it slow. Right. Explain maybe a few words, but not. He wouldn't put in anything of his own. It was very straight. It's very cool. It was a cool experience. And then also that summer, I spent a lot of time reading. I read through Fire and Water by Reb Chaim Kramer, all about Reb Nassan's life. And that book, I think, more than anything else, like everything prepared me, the music and meeting Reb Koenig and Yarli and learning a little bit here and there. That book is what made me go, I want to be a Breslover.
Wow.
Because Reb Nassan, he just struck me as the most real, most authentic, most humble person. And I fell in love with him. And I was like, that's it. I want to be like Reb Nassan. And that set me off. That was it. I finished that book and I was saying, you know what? I think I want to go to Uman for Rosh Hashanah.
Wow. It's so interesting because for me, it wasn't that. I mean, I guess in many ways I was makabel from you, but for me, it was like I was just exploring Judaism, and Breslov was just a safe place to experience Hashem and to be real. And I went that first year with you to Uman, more, I guess, because you were going, and you were like, come along, it'll be a fun experience, and we did, and it was a lot of fun. But it was also more just like, I'm just open. And even throughout my connection in Breslov, it was definitely more like connected to Rabbi Nachman than to Reb Nassan. Like, I loved, I pounded, Baruch Hashem, Likutei Halachos, and like got the chance to learn a lot of that. And obviously, in many ways, everything that we really know about Rabbi Nachman is really through the lens, for the most part, of Reb Nassan.
Right.
But still, it was always like, the truth is, for me, it was being in Uman by Rabbi Nachman. Like my personal experience with Rabbi Nachman, I'd say probably even more than anything else, except for maybe like my relationship with him there, like my experiential moments with him in Uman was definitely very, very, very influenced by Likutei Moran itself. But it really was the experience by him. Like more than anything else about Breslov, it's me being by the Tzion in Uman, the whole experience of me being there. That's what connects me to Rabbi Nachman.
Yeah. Well,
and it's been ups and downs. It has not been sweet the whole time.
Well, definitely going there and experiencing, it takes it to another level. And every time you go, it's another experience, another level. But that was it. That's when I remember saying to myself, yeah, I want to be a Breslover. I want to be Breslov. Was Reb Nassan. And it's interesting because so many people give like I remember in those years especially, people gave a lot of flack. So like Breslov, it's not really Rabbi Nachman, you know. It's actually all Rabbi Nassan's teachings. Like we don't really know what Rabbi Nachman taught himself.
Really?
I heard that from people. People used to give me people used
I
to
got
give
a lot of
flack
flack for Breslov, but not that. I got a lot of flack of like all sorts of other issues. But that's so interesting.
But the reason why it never bothered me was like, well, did you know who Reb Nassan was? Did you read about his life? Like his whole thing was he was totally devoted. And if you wanted a clear channel to give over a tzaddik's teachings, like you couldn't ask for a better person, because that's what he was all about. It's like they asked him, he said, once I came to Rabbi Nachman, it's like I gave up everything. I don't know anything. Rabbi Nachman taught me one thing, now I know one thing. Taught me another thing, now I know two.
Even that part of it, it's just
a bit too much, right?
It's too much for me. Like I don't even though I love like the devotion to the Rebbe that I get, that idea. I mean, I know that Rabbi Nachman also like that idea of a just constant bittul and it's just where you're letting go of everything. It almost like I know it. I've drawn from it, like to rejuvenate myself in moments. But that idea, like to really live that way, like I don't get it. And the truth is, I never read through Fire and Water cover to cover. I've read chunks. And the truth is that maybe I should take this as a stimulus to borrow the book from you. I think you have like 2 copies of it or something.
Yeah, I do.
So I think I need to borrow a copy of it, and maybe that should be my next.
I'll bring it over.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm like that, because I'm not.
Right.
I don't have bittul I have a hard time having bittul to anybody or anything. You know, I have a big ego and I have my own ideas about everything.
Me too.
But at least if you wanted to look for a channel to get Rabbi Nachman's teachings, like here's a guy who was mevatel himself totally and was willing to just teach over. So, you know, it's pretty good. It's funny also, another thing you think about, how many tzaddikim from that time do we know so many details, not just the Torahs that they gave over, but so many details surrounding what was the background, what was happening around the Torah. It's so much more real, it's so much more alive. Like the Baal Shem Tov's life is so shrouded in mystery and almost legendary.
Right, that's fantastical.
It's very fantastical. Rabbi Nachman's life, and he was his great-grandson. It wasn't that long after, you know, they had children, they're very young back then.
Very short lifetime.
Yeah, so it wasn't that long after the Baal Shem Tov, and we know so many details about what was happening when he gave the Torahs. Where was he? What was the story? Who was there? Who wasn't there? Right. So you could see it's like an Especularia Meira. It's not something. Oh, we don't know what Rabbi Nachman said. No, it's like no, we have all the stories. It's very clear.
It's true, and that is something that really like kind of makes Breslov and Breslov Torah very endearing, is because you mamish are there. Like you almost can get to the point where you're like, almost as if like I kind of know what was going on, like because you kind of felt it, you kind of been there, you kind of like know and had that experience. And the truth is that learning his Torahs are also very experiential. Like you know, many Torahs you learn and they're very sichli, and even in his Torahs, many times they're very profound, they're very deep. But I mean, you know, when we used to learn together, we would read it, not know what we were talking about, then go to the laughing stage, right? We were just both sitting there, and like we would just start laughing, and like it's like, do you know why I'm laughing? Do I know why you're laughing? And you're just laughing, and suddenly like the Torah begins to like create this tapestry, but you're not even sure what it is, and it's kind of forming, and you're experiencing it. Like the whole learning a piece of Likutei Moharan is not like learning anything else. It's like it's an experience. It's a journey into it. Yeah. And it's very that's Breslov is so experiential.
Right, and you can't learn it like other things. Like you can't learn 3 words and then say like, what does this mean? No. You need to learn. You need to read through, like kind of let it sit, and then you could see what's the connection over. You kind of have to like look at the big picture. It's very right brain. It's not like detailed Bina breakdown. First, you have to do the Chachma, look at the whole picture, feel it, hear the background story, read it through a few times, and then you could slowly start to see from the big, then get down to the, go to first Chachma.
And then you could break down. It's so true. You know, remember those pictures that they'd have that you look at and it just looks like a fuzzy type of like picture, and then if you look like through the picture, suddenly you see a 3D image.
Yeah. You have to really relax. I was never able to do
So
that.
I love those, and that's kind of
I
what
think
it's
it's
like.
because I have a lazy eye.
Really?
It always messed it
I
up.
always thought that you were good at them. Didn't we had them by?
Because I used to stare at them for hours and I'd get frustrated. It never worked.
I love this. We even have a book of it somewhere in the house. I love that because that's the kind of thing where it's like that's kind of how like learning the Kutim Moran. And by the way, a lot of panemius for me over the years has been that way. It's like you have to work hard, but at some point it's almost like when you are not trying so hard to get it, and suddenly you're in it, and you're like, as opposed to like holding like it's a difference between like holding a cup of water in your hand and jumping into a mikvah. And suddenly you're inside the Torah and you look to the left and you see like, oh, he was explaining that over there. And then you're like, oh, wait, but here's the other. And you're in this Torah, you're in this world. Suddenly your whole experience is reformed. It's, yeah. Gewalt. L'chaim.
Cool. Chaim Taivim L'Shulim. Speaking of L'chaims, it's Yartzeit today. Some big tzaddikim, maybe we should have L'chaim.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
All right. So, bring it over.
Yeah, shkayach.
All right. So, whose Yartzeit is today? We have
The Holy Kutzker.
the Kutzker.
Right, the Kutzker was known as the second Baal Shem Tov. Many
Really?
people, yeah, many
Never
people,
heard that.
Really? So they used to call him the second Baal Shem Tov because he came and he remapped so much of chassidus, and where during his time, so many things like so much of chassidus had become on the outside, very like l'chaimi and not so serious on some levels.
I mean, like second generation Hasidus, where it became institutionalized again.
It become institutionalized and also became like very like
Shitty.
losing a lot of the substance. And the Kutzker came along in a very powerful way, and he was like MS.
He's not into trappings. He's not into external.
And it's crazy, like to the point that people were in their search for MS, they were questioning every single presupposition of their life.
Wow.
They would question their marriage and their existence and their kids and their parents and their story and why they think a certain way. The famous story in Kutsk when they decided like, well, who says Friday night I feel on the Shami Yisera, feel Shabbos? What if we dressed up and we made Shabbos on Tuesday night? And the Kutzker wasn't so happy about that, they said. But he said, don't mess around with certain things. But still, he would question everything.
That's interesting. I don't know much about Kutsk. I think the one thing that I've read which really changed me was the book that you gave me, Sharp as a Needle, Rebellion Kitov.
So that's good, but there's another book that you should read. Some people might think it's a little controversial, but I am a huge fan of his writings. Rav Heschel.
Rav Mishua Heschel.
Yeah. Oh wow, he has a book on Kutsk. So you can't walk around. You're like this. It's like. By the way, that's how it was with Rebbe Leo Kitov as well. When you're reading Sharp as a Needle or in the Lion's Den or his other books, but like, yeah, that also. Remember when the story of the Yid going into Kutsk, going to visit, and his induction into Kutsk. He comes there.
Which one is Eliezer Bialystoker, Matasio Kozak?
Yeah,
great stories. Yeah, I highly recommend. If you want to read the most amazing stories about Kutsk, you must get this book, Sharp as a Needle by Rebbe Leo Kitov.
Yeah,
and
it's not even in print. It's from Feldheim. By the way, the first one also
not
in the Lion's Den.
I know Rabbi Shane from the Karlbach Shul, formerly of the Karlbach Shul, because he just left us. But he did a reprint just recently, and he may have a few copies available. Look him up on...
Yeah, phenomenal. Rebbe Leo Kitov stories. When I first started reading Rebbe Leo Kitov, my Rebbe in Yerushalayim, Rav Belsky, Rav Daniel Belsky, he looked at me and he goes, "What are you learning Musar-wise?" I was like, "Actually, I'm not." So he said, "But no, you are." So I was like, "Well, no." He's like, "Well, what are you reading?" I said, "I'm reading the stories, from." I didn't even know that he knew him. It turns out, obviously, he's mamish mishpacha and very connected.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
His father-in-law is Reb Nachman Bullman. Reb Nachman Bullman was a Talmud of Leo Kitov, so like very close. And so I told him, I said, "I'm reading these stories from Reb Leo Kitov, And he goes, "Oh, you're reading that?" He said Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky is quoted as saying they are the finest Jewish stories written in the history of Jews. I mean, wow. So at least that's how I remember the quote. There's no guarantees that that's actually what he said or what I heard or anything, but that's how I remember it, and but so powerful. And the stories, they changed me. I used to remember when I read the story of Rav Nachum of Chernobyl, and just that last, like, also the stories, they're not just stories, they're these long expositions and tyras and experiences, and you enter into this whole world. And the last line, this whole story of Rav Nachum, and it was so powerful. Rav Nachum of Chernobyl ends off, he said, "I'm more afraid of a mitzvah that brings me pleasure than of an avera that gives me no pleasure." And I was just like, wow, whoa. It was so intense. And after this whole thing, I just was walking around, and that's like Mamash's story that I had read, and when he saw me, he's like, "That's Mussar. Like, if that, these stories change your life." Anyhow, so that's Kotsk, the holy Rabbi Nachum Mendel, then Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leibush.
Rabbi Nachum Mendel, but Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leibush.
Amen. Neshamas will have an aliyah.
And we should be dragged up together with the neshama. We should also have an aliyah.
Amen. Amen. And the next one today is Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leib and Reb Shlomo. It's known as Reb Leib
Eger. Our Elter Zaydi's Rebbe's Tata.
Right?
That's right.
Wow. These holy tzaddikim.
And he was also, was he connected to Kotsk? Or he was connected to Pshisk, what was he connected to?
Well, the Ishbitzer.
He went to Ishbitz, right?
Yeah.
And the Ishbitzer was,
I don't know.
Where is he from?
Learned from, I don't know.
We'll have to look. I think because the Ishbitz had a connection to Kotsk, but I don't remember. We'll have to look this up.
Yeah, I think it did also.
Anyway, L'chaim, we should have an aliyah. The neshamas of the tzaddikim should have an aliyah, and we should all be lifted up together.
I mean, we already made shahakos.
Yeah.
So.
L'chaim tovim l'shulam.
Simchas ba'alid. L'chaim. Feel the warmth of the tzaddik.
The gentleman jack in honor of the holy gentleman.
Mamash.
It's so funny. Like Rav Koenig, he was a gentleman. He was so gentle in everything he said, and he said intense things. There were sometimes he told me things that were, he told me like, "You got to do this. This is for real."
Really?
But he said it very gently.
Meaning you acted like when you were with Charlotte?
Yeah. I used to. After he had the transplant and came back to Eretz Yisrael, I actually met him more than once in his parents' house, his mother's house.
Oh yes, right by what's it called? By Mea Sharim.
Right, Batei something.
Batei something. Right.
Batei Ungvar or maybe.
Right, it's right in the back and it has like that. So much the old school where it has that big like space in the middle and
the courtyard. Yeah, so his
that's right.
His mother's house from way back in the day. A little house, a little room in the back, and a little tiny kitchen in the front.
I went with you and with Yaeli a couple times. I think also when I started dating, I think I went to
one of the things he told me there, I remember I spoke to him about reading Through Fire and Water, and we were talking about Nussin's life, and he said, Through Fire and Water is a great book. Mamish good, because he read it in Hebrew. He said, but you have to read Reb Nussin's original writings about his own autobiography. He told me you must read Yemei Maranat. You must read it because Yemei Maranat, Reb Nussin's stories about his life in his own pen, in his own words.
Right.
So then I went ahead and I read Yemei Maranat, and wow, that's also one of my.
They translated that to English straight?
I've never seen the translation.
They should do that.
Yeah, I should.
You were doing making Through Fire and Water into an audiobook.
Right, I was reading it. God willing, I'm going to continue doing it.
Yeah, we need that. It was really good. And the truth is, I want to listen to that. Also, I just recently was telling somebody else about that.
I did like 5 or 6 chapters. I really need to get back to it. Just life is so busy.
Amen. That's why we're here. Gewalt, l'chaim, so special. So incredibly special. Gewalt.
So that's a little bit of our story, of my story, of how I connected to Breslov and how you connected. What I find so interesting is that I don't know what the numbers are that go to Uman nowadays, but they're out of this world, and every year just more and more, it just keeps getting crazier and crazier.
My apologies. That should be on file.
So good, baby, so good. So I don't know what the numbers are that come in Uman nowadays, but every year it's more and more and more. It's out of control. What I find so interesting is that it's organic, and what I mean by that is there's nobody out there going and trying, like, we're not advertising Uman, even though there's signs up but it became this thing because people went and they came back and told their friends.
Personal experience.
Yeah, I went to Uman for Rosh Hashanah and it was amazing. You got to come. Friends told friends, and it became the largest Jewish gathering in the world nowadays. Is it?
It's the longest over a period of days, maybe, that Jews are getting together. But it's the numbers, like total numbers, doesn't compare even to going up to Reb Shimon.
Okay,
Reb Shimon was like 750,000 people. It's interesting. By the Siyam Hashas, there were 90,000 people or something like that, maybe more, maybe not, close to 100,000 people at the Siyam. And one of the Rabbanim made a comment like, "This is the largest gathering since the second base of Mikdash." And I was like, actually, Reb Shimon has got like way bigger numbers, except that they were all together. They daven like one tefillah, everybody together, right. And you don't have that. So maybe in some ways, that was actually true. Like that was everybody together. And in Uman also, but in Uman you're there for a week or minimum 3-4 days.
5 days, yeah.
And that's a huge gathering, and they're all coming for one thing. It's a crazy gathering.
Yeah, and it is basically. I mean, there were a couple of years back, there was a fellow who was giving out free tickets and this and that. But for the most part, it's friends inviting friends because something is happening and they're having an experience and they're having some kind of connection, and it's completely unique. There's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it in Judaism anywhere else. It's unique. I mean, the other things, there are other gatherings and this and that. This is something that people are going. They're having an experience. They're coming back. They're telling their friends, "You got to come. You got to check this out because this is something else." And when you go there, you meet chevra that they wouldn't be talking about spirituality. They wouldn't be talking about ruchnius. They wouldn't be talking about God or Torah or tshuva anywhere else. Maybe they would, but you wouldn't be having these conversations. I know, not with me anyway. And then you come to Uman and people are opening up about Yiddishkeit. They're opening up about what they want out of life. They're opening up about their questions. They don't know, but they're opening. They want to know, like, what do you have to say? What do you think? Where should I be going? What should I be doing? It's an experience that's unparalleled.
Yeah.
So that's the truth is, I'd love to hear from people. I wonder how people can interact with us and give us their stories, or maybe if people want to share how they connected and what it meant to them, or how you got connected to going to Uman for Rosh Hashanah. Maybe you want to come on and tell us your story. That would be cool.
That would be cool. Yeah, I think we should tell them also our stories, because, like we said, that first year was wild and special. But when I came back after my first year, I was not going back. My message was from Rabbi Nachman was, hey, Breslov's nice and it's very chilled and it's very open, but like you need to find like your more firm, more well-rounded path. I was very, didn't have any path at that time, and I was not planning on going back second year at all. And I had a crazy story how I got back there. Maybe we'll do it next week or something. And then and that next year experience was, I still have trauma from that next year experience. It was a very intense experience, but that was definitely, I think that was when kind of Rabbi Nachman entered my heart in a way that very few others at all, living, dead, anything, have been able to become like mamish, like, he has my heart. He has my heart deeply, and and changed. Listen, but this is the story, like the story of Uman, and we really got to get into it, because it's not just the story of Uman. It's the story of tzaddikim and Hashem, and how the tzaddikim are basically bringing the people together to reconnect with Hashem, and it's the tzaddikim that are sheikhei afar, that are really doing this work, and it's almost crazy to think about it. Like, we have so much to talk about being by Reb Shimon, and you have stories of your first trips to Reb Shimon, first times I went to Reb Shimon, being in Tzfas by the Arizal, by going to, even Maras Machpelah, Cave Rachel, these, somebody turned to me, we mentioned it in one of the other things, like how like the Kotel is like also like a caver, but these spiritual kaimas, there's different places in Olam Shana and Nefesh and space, time, and souls that have these breakout ability, and sometimes you can't talk to somebody who's never experienced something until they experience it. But how do you give someone an experience if they don't know, when they've never been able to taste it? It's like until you're there, you don't know what we're talking about. But the only way you can really get back there is if you kind of know where you're headed. Mm-hmm. I guess you remember, like you're talking about that picture earlier, like where you have to kind of let your eyes go, and then suddenly you see the 3D image. Yep. Like if you've never done it before, you could try to explain, like, okay, look at the picture, move it closer and further away, and then but don't look at it. Look through it, but look at it. And like the person's like, I don't know what you're talking about. As soon as they have it one time, suddenly they're there, and they're like, I get it. And then even when they don't have it, you can remind them. You remember what it was like. And for me, that's the way it is. It's like I've been able to tap in. I actually once was talking to Tzaddik about this, because I was one of the people I was working with. I was trying to express to them like that taste of a neshama level experience. And I asked Tzaddik, I said, what do you do with somebody who they're claiming that they've never had an experience like this in their life? Like, is that fair? Like maybe it's like, is Hashem jipping them from the ability to be able to have a neshama level experience because they have nothing to reflect back on, to be able to draw back to? And so the tzaddik said, you should know that if that's the case, they can reach back to a past lifetime. Yeah. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, you'll see. Sometimes people, it's there. Meaning he's like, it's there in their soul. Like they felt it there. I was like,
I'm so curious who this tzaddik is.
Yeah, it was a very interesting conversation. But with Uman and with Kivrei Tzadikim, I've seen it happen again, and again. Because you go there and it's like the hashras hashchina, the intense energy levels that are there, they just pierce through. And as soon as you have one moment of tasting it, the game changes. Because and Rabbi Nachman has his very cute way of saying it. Is back then there was wine, and then there was Hungarian wine. And he goes, once you've tasted the wine, you know what I'm talking about. Like you can't be fooled. Like once you've tasted a neshama level experience, somebody can come over and they can have all the chachmas in the world, and they can tell you all the reasons in the world. You know what it is. You know what it tastes like. You've been there. You've had that moment where your heaven and your earth connected. And even if you fall, and we do, and I'm very far from being a perfect person, and I don't know anybody who's honest and real and will tell you that they're not. But that honesty and that openness, but that realness of being able to say, I tasted it, and I know when it's fake. I know when it's real, and I want it again. And that is like you have by the tzaddikim.
And you have it in Eretz Yisrael.
You have it in Eretz Yisrael. Yeah. That's what a Shras Hashchina is. It's that thinning, the thinning of the veil, that breakthrough. You have it on Shabbos, and you have it with certain people. It's Olam Shana Nefesh. Yeah. It's like playing a game of Clue. I choose the Kohen Gadol and the Kodesh Kodashim.
With the
Kataris on Yom Kippur, it's like that's it. And once you've had just even a hint of that, Moshe Weimaker, it was one of the classes I'll never forget. We were talking about moving in slichas, getting closer to Yom Neran, and he's talking about like as you're getting closer and closer, you move from the Shara Yerushalayim, and you move into the city, into the streets, and you're getting closer to the base of Mikdash. You enter into the Heichal, you come to and boom, you're moving closer and closer in. And that's mamash how it is. Like once you've tasted, once you've had that realness, l'chaim, these different tzaddikim, but every one of them.
And it is really interesting. It's amazing to live in this time where Eretz Yisrael is opening up again for us. And the tzaddikim are coming alive again. You keep on saying this recently, how Chiyas HaMesim, the dead tzaddikim are coming alive again.
Right.
I think it's such a great. I love it.
I think it's so simple. Is that if dead tzaddikim are now a tourist spot, tons of people are traveling to them. That's Chiyat HaMetim. Like obviously there's going to be another level, but but it's so real. I had this really funny thought. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I was sitting somewhere and I wanted to tell you, and I was like, if you had to choose one tzaddik who could, like, influence your life, who would you choose?
Me?
Wait, yeah, you. Wait, don't tell me, because you don't have to. How lucky are we that we don't have to? It's like, and you think about it, like, what will my top 5 be? And it's a great conversation. Don't get me wrong, because we'll talk, but you don't have to choose. We are blessed with a wealth of tzaddikim. We are blessed with a wealth of channels, a wealth of angles in mind, in heart, in experience. We need to drink from these fountains. Yeah. We need to enjoy them. Like, even if you look on the wall, like, sometimes I just sit, sadly I don't get a chance to learn the books as much as I would like to, but just look at them and just be like, wow, these books are phenomenal. And every one of them, every tzaddik has his own unique channel. Every one of them has his own. I just have to say a quick idea on last week's parsha from Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Harlap. It says that Moshe was standing. It says that the Yisro was sitting with Aaron and eating food. Where was Moshe? So I think Rashi says that he was standing over them to serve them. So Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Harlap was saying that Moshe wanted to make sure that he was the tzinar, that if all the tzaddikim were sitting together and eating food, he wanted to be the tzinar that was giving them everything. And so therefore he stood, he was like there, like by Avram Avinu as well. He became the tziner that we're all eating from, that we're all drinking from, that we're all yearning from, that we're all yearning from. And that's mamash the tzaddikim that we have. Like, we are living in a time that we're blessed with a wealth, and we shouldn't. I bless us all that we don't forget it. Like, sometimes you connect to this tzaddik, that tzaddik, and that's great. And you should have you should have your top 5, and you should know who they are, and you should be clear and know where your sharish neshama is, and who you resonate with, and what talks to you, and what lights you up, and what picks you up from a downer. But also know we have so many tzaddikim.
Lots to explore.
Oh, so much to explore. So much to explore. You should be able to spend many, many, many years exploring the words and the beautiful ideas and the pathways of the heart. They're all tzaddikim. I feel incredibly wealthy.
I mean,
with tzaddikim.
Yeah, we're loaded. I think sometimes I had this vision of Olam Haba, and that's just not even Olam Haba. Like, a couple of weeks back we were sitting on Friday morning, and Reb Levish was giving a shir on the shul, and just saying the most beautiful Torah, and we had a Suda, because there was what was going on that day. There was something happening. We made a Suda,
right,
and then I was thinking, like, this is it. I'm good. Like, if this just lasted forever, like, we have a little Suda, and then Reb Levish says some Torah, and then maybe someone else will share an idea, and then maybe some more friends will come, and then we'll have another L'chaim, then
right.
maybe we'll sing the Niggin, and then maybe some more friends will come, and we'll share more Torahs, and we'll share. It's like, I think I'd be okay with doing this forever, and then bigger tzaddikim will come and share more. Maybe Rabbi Nachman will come.
Yeah.
The Baal Shem Tov. Come on, everyone.
Yes, I have to say,
bigger.
Rabbi Leo Kito in those books. I don't remember which one it was. It could be A Lion's Den, Sharper's Needle, maybe one of his other books. And he says, in Europe, you know what Olam Haba was? The whole hasag of Olam Haba was a warm seat next to the oven, because the Bati Midrashim were cold at night, a wax candle, because the tallow candles smelled horrible and they would flicker the whole time. But a wax candle had a nice clean flame. A Gemara that was legible, because not all the printings are good, but a nice good Gemara that was clear, easy to read, and a Chavrusa who you enjoyed learning with. That's it. And you should know that I feel the same way, like being able to sit with some good friends and just explore Torah and just be in a nice warm environment, like the Baal Shem Tov says, have a little l'chaim to keep the nefesh happy, a little food. I always like a little food. I'm a sucker for food. A little food to keep me happy. And then I just want to connect. I just want to open up to Hashem. And this is what our friends do, and this is what our teachers do, and this is what the tzaddikim, they're all just, these books are just filled with, hey, Hashem wants to be connected to.
And we'll run out, we'll jump out, we'll go find the Mayan, jump into Mayan, we'll come back, we'll have a little mincha together, maybe with a niggin before. We'll sit back down and learn, like, that's good, that's what we want. Our friends are there, our wives, our children, just everyone come together, let's do it. All right, L'chaim, wish me blessed. Yom
Amen.
Shekulo Tov.
Amen. L'chaim.
I think it's time to wrap it up, man.
Amen. As they say, Od Chazon Lamoed.
Yeah, so hopefully, I'm definitely looking forward to next time. I want to get into, I want to go back to our first trips to Uman and talk so much.
Yeah.
Good times.
All right.
All right, till next time.
Amen. Be blessed.